said coming live from Washington, D.C., ladies and gentlemen. Of course, unfortunately, we are coming live from Nyangumi. Can't even hear the difference. Washington, D.C. versus Nyangumi Road. Yes, of course, Pete's Cafe, Arc Place, that's where we're coming from. That's where we shoot this beautiful show, Dr.Ofweneke Live. Of course, on my YouTube channel, Dr.Ofweneke TV, which you'll have subscribed by now, of course, on the screen. And of course, for PR and communication and marketing, ladies and gentlemen, big shout out, of course, to Yolo Creative Agency. A big thank you so much to every single person. Wale ambao mko pale kwenye Instagram, on TikTok, on Twitter, of course, and of course on YouTube comments as well, saying Dr. Ofweneke, we're loving the show. Please bring so and so. Please bring so and so. And I would have said many friends of mine, but of course I will deliberately use this statement. A few friends of mine also from the beautiful Akorino family also were like, please host that guy, David WACHIRAI. And of course, I also got interested in him when I watched him, of course, on JKN Live, of course, on Citizen TV. And ladies and gentlemen, who am I? Of course, I am only at your service, doing what you please most. And of course, before we continue, please make sure you subscribe to all the social media platforms and of course, be part of knowing who are we hosting as. But of course, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. I am your host. My name is the Eagle himself, the Duke of Kakamega. Dr. Ofweneke is my name, and of course, big guest, big conversations, of course, by a big host. Karibuni sana, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, hey, our first ever at the IMF, ladies and gentlemen, is the guy who gets the gossips on the corridor of how much we've asked for this year. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. Daktari WACHIRAI, karibu sana. Let's take a sip first of all. It's first of all, such an honor. And I think I've seen on various interviews, and you're a true, I think you're a true symbol of how much, if you're determined, how many barriers you can actually jump to want to achieve what you want to achieve in life. Yeah. And I was just doing research about you, coming all the way from Kirinyaga, Kerewoya, whereby you and I actually have something in common, because I actually went to Mwea Boys.
Oh, really?
Yes, so that's what I did from my Form 2, Form 3. Then I was the first ever students chairman, Kirinyaga district. Okay. So you and I really connect on that one. Please tell me, how was it growing up and the transition from Kerewoya to Nyahururu and then to the world? How was that transition?
So, you know, it was fascinating that you mentioned that. First of all, let me begin by saying thank you for having me on.
It's a pleasure.
I've been watching you for years. I think we talked about 13 years back.
Woo, thank you.
When you
I know guys are shocked. Guys are like, oh my goodness. Have you heard his English? 13, so put on your subtitles, pale, hamujasikia Kiswahili chake, kina shangaza murwa. As you were saying, sir.
Yeah, we've been watching you for a while, so it's a pleasure to finally be here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. So the transition from Kirinyaga, Kerewoya to Nyahururu was, at least a fast one for me because I was a young kid. So I was born in Sagana, which is in Kerewoya.
Sagana 1, 2, or 3, because
not far from the Cereals and Produce Board. Sagana Territories, right there. In fact, I was there last month, and it's unbelievable. It hasn't changed much, but beautiful place. So I was born there. My mom was working for the National Cereals and Produce Board, and from there she was sent to Nyahururu. So we migrated to Nyahururu. That's how we did that transition. Of course, I was a little kid. So this was 1988 when we moved to Nyahururu. And so my formative years from 1988, my sense of becoming, I guess I should say, when I started having memories and stuff like that, were in Nyahururu. And then from Nyahururu, we transitioned to Nairobi, more appropriately to Kayole.
You ought to mention it, Kayole.
So we were there, so Umoja Phase 1, and then Kayole. And then from Kayole now to Austin, Texas.
Austin, Texas.
Yeah, so
which year was this when you get into Texas?
This was 97. So
97.
1997. Yeah, I had just finished Standard 7. I was going to school in Albergan called Machinda Boys Boarding in Albergan, and my sister was at St. Peter's Girls. So we transitioned from there to Austin, Texas. Quite a dramatic change.
Clearly, I can imagine. I mean, the culture shock and everything.
Yeah, the culture shock. This was in the 90s, and when the embassy was still in downtown, before the
bomb blast. Yeah,
the bomb blast in 98. So an amazing time, but one also wrought with ridiculous difficulties, largely because from a financial perspective. Right? So you're sent, you go to the U.S., and I guess I should backtrack a little bit and tell you why we went to the U.S.
Yeah.
We went to the U.S. because my father got a scholarship through the National Council of Churches of Kenya to go do his graduate studies. That's how we ended up in Austin, Texas. He was at Austin Theological Seminary doing his master's in divinity, and that's what took us to the U.S.
The whole family.
The whole family. So we were there, and from 1997 till 1999, we were in Austin. And so there was this huge transition. One, the culture shock, the financial difficulties. So both my parents were government employees when they were here. My dad was a school teacher, and my mom worked for the National Cereals and Produce Board, as I mentioned. And so, not rich, but definitely were making ends meet, and then now go to the US and you face significant hard challenges, largely because of financial inhibitions, because you're not allowed to work. So my dad was on a scholarship and was being given about $200 per month, and that's what we were surviving
But
on.
how much were you supposed to survive on $200 a meal?
Yeah, not much. So it was a very difficult time. So 1997 to 2003, when my parents actually finished their schooling and got into formal employment, was a difficult transition for us. And that's when we were going through high school. In 2002, I finished high school and then studied university in the United States.
Was there a point of the probably you would look at dad and mom, you're like, yo, I mean, can we just go back because we can't do all this? Were you at a point where you and your sister probably felt like you can't do this anymore?
So for me, yes, particularly because of the jobs that we used to take. So, here, you helped out at home and stuff like that. You're used to chores. But then when we went to the US, we not only had our own chores, but we also had to work, to at least to support our parents. So I remember going and sweeping offices and cleaning toilets, because this was the odd jobs that my mom were getting. And so, because we didn't have a babysitter, and we were of age at the time, so myself and my two sisters would, accompany my mom, and we would go help her clean offices or clean people's homes. And I remember this when you're in high school thinking, wow, I didn't do this in Kenya.
In Kenya, I didn't have to do this. I mean, this is not the American dream.
No.
This is not what they tell us about.
Definitely not. But then you came to understand what it is that you're trying to accomplish. And we were doing that, and you could see why they were doing that, so they could pay for our education and our, transition into adulthood. So there was that aspect of understanding. And my parents were very forward-thinking in that they sat us down and, explained the challenges, why we are doing this, what's the end goal. So as a family, we all bought into the vision, knowing it would not always be like this. So those difficulties and challenges were
But there was a
momentary.
goal.
Yeah, there was a goal. So in 2003, when my mom alimalized school, like overnight, right, financially to Kachomoka, right?
Where?
She stopped Kufagia offices and then went to, working as a nurse.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So you all never came back, like the whole family?
No, we never came back.
Hi guys,
Yeah.
really, man, dog. You guys are like, hey, Kenya, no,
No,
tumeomoka.
it was not that. It was not until 2009 where we had the financial wherewith, 12 years after we've been in the US, to actually all 5 of us come back. Now you have to understand that, 5 people, even a flight in today paying for 5 people, you're running upwards of $1,000 a piece,
Clearly,
about
yeah.
100,000. So we're talking about 500,000 to bring the family
Everybody back.
So my dad had come back, of course, usually not for very joyful circumstances, for when there were funerals or stuff like that.
Exactly, yeah.
But then we were all able to come back in 2009. It was the first time, and we came back for a very long time. We were here for 5 weeks. It was,
5 weeks.
Yeah,
That was a long time.
it was a very long
the
time.
carry.
It was the longest we had been from, and then since then we came every year. So I, on average, come 4 or 5 times a year. I spend a significant amount of time here. I've been here since November for the last 4 months. So now we make up for it. The last year, I've spent 9 months here.
Basically.
And 3 months in the US.
Did it feel, when you guys came back in, was it 2009 you said?
Yeah, 2009.
Was it where coming back and you're like, things have changed? I mean, the infrastructure, the buildings, the roads, and you're like, is this the Kenya that we loved at that time?
Yeah. So you see, this is one.
And even your friends have grown up, some of them.
Have grown up, yeah. And actually, the friends who we've kept, we've remained very close friends for the last 24 years. because we started our friendship before email, before Facebook.
Exactly,
Instagram.
it was
So
a
we
pen pals at that time.
physically had to write, and we maintained that relationship until email came about in 2003 when I got my first email, and then I started sending it, and then when Facebook came about. So our friends, we are close-knit because we've been communicating using written communication for the past 24 years.
Oh.
But when we came back, there's one thing when you're removed from a particular environment and you come back, because you see the elements of growth. So internally, a lot of people may complain, we're not seeing development, we're not seeing this, but I see a new terminal. Hey, this was not here,
Like we're
last
moving,
month.
we're moving forward.
You come back, it's like, wow, the bypass Nini, you're hearing southern, eastern, northern. They were not
These are
there.
things you guys are only used to when, when you're on the other
so
side.
you come back, you're like, I came back in November, and there's this, upper level deck that's running from the airport all the way to Westlands that wasn't there.
How does it
6
make you
months
feel?
ago.
How does it make you feel?
Very proud, despite the challenges that the country undergoes, but very proud, because you can see a sense of development. I would liken to this, when you're a parent, and I'm not a parent, but I've been told is that you see your child grow, but because you're with them every single day, you don't see that particular aspect. Your uncles are the ones who are coming,
True.
right? Because they haven't seen you in like 2 3 months.
I saw my daughter, my last born is, she just turned 2 years last month. And she's been trying to now, her speech is now collecting itself together. And she told me, Daddy, unaenda sangapi? And I was like, that was too soon.
Yeah.
Don't speak yet. I still want to have the delicate you in the house. So shut your mouth.
The one who's not talking back.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, and I totally understand when you talk about, in terms of you coming back and appreciating how much growth we're having. And let me just flip the chapati onto the other side.
Yeah.
For this whole 12 years, you guys are in the US. You are part of this special religion. No, let me not special. This religion whereby I'm pretty sure it wasn't there in the US.
Yeah.
How did you guys were able to maintain your religious background?
Yeah.
Despite it not being in the US, I mean, I don't know. There's an Akorino church in the US.
Yeah, there isn't.
There isn't.
There isn't.
How are you guys able to maintain that?
So I have to start off by saying, one, as a point of correction for the entire country, is that Akorinos, or Akorino as we identify ourselves, it's just a denomination within the Christian religion. So it's just like Baptist, Presbyterian, and so forth. So then you have Akorino. So no aspect of differences, at least from the religious background. The only difference is the physical headgear that we wear.
How do you call it? What do you?
This is a turban, just
A
a
turban.
turban.
But in English, do you have like a native name for it?
Kireba,
Kireba.
Yeah.
I like that.
Which is Kikuyu for it. So, but the fact that we are Christians then didn't make it very difficult for us to maintain this sense of identity, because wherever we found ourselves Sunday morning, that's where we went. And I've probably spent a lot more times in a lot more denominational churches than most Kenyans have. So I can tell you how Baptist order of service goes, how Anglican order of service goes, how Presbyterian order of service goes, because those are the churches where we attended.
Exactly,
for us, we looked for what is it that we have in common with our fellow man and
In
our
terms
fellow
of
Christians.
beliefs and
Some
doctrines.
beliefs, and we go there, rather than this 1 or 0.5% that I see as clear differentiators. So for us, we hold on to what is the commonality. And for us, it was very simple. It's, we're praying to the same God, yes. Do you meet on Sunday morning? Yes. Where's the location? We'll be there, right? So, and that's where we were. And if there wasn't, we'll go to the next best place. I've been to Jewish synagogues because that's where I found myself on Sunday morning, or Saturday rather. And when I'm traveling in Eastern Europe, I'm not going to say, okay, look, these guys are Russian Orthodox and I'm Akorino, so I'm not going to go there. So that sense of identity, helped us hold on to the value systems that we have. The other thing was my parents, and I really thank them for that, because, emphasized Mwachamila ni Mtumwa for us. And so it was not just the religious headgear that we held on to, but the language, the idioms, the culture, and the way of doing things. So, I find it surprising that when I go to Nyahururu, I speak more Kikuyu than those in Nyahururu.
Are you serious?
Or, when I transversed through Tanzania, in 2019 drove from one end of Tanzania to the other. And I didn't need a dictionary, I was able to converse. Of course, they spoke quite fast. And,
they're very
Swahili,
fast in Swahili, yeah.
but I wasn't lost, right? I could fuel my car and I could get along well. And that sense of culture, and I feel for diasporans, that's one thing that people yearn and hold on to. So you'll find a lot of diasporans like really.
So everything that reminds you of home.
Yeah, reminds you of home.
So you still kept up even the way of praying.
Yeah, even though we're praying. So my dad would say it this way. Actually, I'll say it in Kikuyu. Wari gone frame ya murago kamenya wenya hururu, which means.
Bro, take it easy. Take it easy. Sounds like a latest Samido song.
Which means, ukipita hiyo frame ya mlango unajua uko Nyahururu.
Uko Nyahururu.
And in Nyahururu we speak either Kikuyu or Kiswahili.
There's no two ways.
Two ways. So English, unayacha nje. So for us, unless we had a guest, there were only two languages that were allowed to be spoken
in the house.
At home. That was Kikuyu because we are native Kikuyu and that was our first language, and then Swahili, Lugha ya Taifa. So that's all you could speak. Unless someone else comes who does not speak those two languages.
Then you have to. Then you gotta change it as well.
Then you change it. You change it to English.
Now let me ask. So you guys trying to fit into this new culture in terms of the environment, the surrounding at Austin, Texas, and then of course even in school as well. Was there this weird, how do I put it? Did guys look at you weirdly at some point? Like, because I know to an American mind, the first thing they see when they see a turban, it reminds them of 9/11. That's the first, like, oh my goodness, it's about to get bombed any time from now. Did you face that? Did you have to start explaining to guys like, listen, guys, Muriago, Nyahururu, this is where we are, this is my culture.
Yeah. So not so much, not until 9/11. 97 to,
of course,
2011 we were fine. So, in the US, until, this aspect happened in 9/11, there was more a sense of like, I remember when I moved into Troy, I was not only, at least my family, we were not only immigrants, but we were the only people of color there. We were the only black people in the town.
Oh, yeah.
So we checked off all these boxes, immigrants, black, right? And
turban, everything
like
wrong,
all in one.
everything weird.
Yeah. So people, there was this sense of excitement, right? So hate is learned. You're not born with it.
That's
and so
deep.
you find people when they interact with you, they're like, well, you're not what I expected. Like, you're human, right? But there's you laugh, you cry, you talk like the rest of us, and then you start asking yourself, why in the world am I supposed to hate you? Right?
Now I don't find a reason anymore why, because there's actually nothing to hate about you.
And it'd have some extreme aspects where people would tell me, you're not like other black people. It's like, how many black people do you know? It's like, I don't know any. It was like, precisely.
I like the argument. I like the argument, Lily. And it's rather interesting. You actually ended up and married a lady of a different race.
Yeah.
And how was that for you? Because I know it was of course there's examination of you explaining your culture and who you are and where you're coming from to her. Then there's the introduction to now the family.
To the family, with all
how
the
weird
noise
was
and
this?
And everything.
Like mom, daddy,
drama.
oh my goodness, I brought this guy home. It's like, oh my God, come to the kitchen, we gotta talk. How was that for you?
No, it was okay. Largely, this is how I say it. You find yourself in this, cosmopolitan environment where everyone is different.
True.
Different races, different religions, different way of speaking, different backgrounds, different ethnicities, and creeds, all in a very small place. And so inbuilt tolerance comes in, and not necessarily, I wouldn't say tolerance because you're not like someone is doing something
exactly,
wrong.
something wrong to us,
So you're used to differences, and in fact, you even go to the point where you celebrate differences. So for me, or even my wife, is that when we go to a place and everyone looks like us, that we notice. And I'll put it this way: we were in Rome in last November, and we were boarding the flight back to the United States. So we get on the line. It says it was Turkish Airlines. We get on the line, and airport, all these gates. So we get on one, and
all the procedures.
So we go to what we think is our gate, and we line up, and we queue. You're queuing, and eventually, the person in front of us on the line says, are you going to China? And we said, no, we're not going to China, we're going to the US. And he goes, I think you're on the wrong line. And we're like, oh, we're so sorry. Do you know where the line to the US is? And then they point us to us. So we get our bags, we go to the line to the US, which is right next to it. Then we turn around and we look. And everyone on that line, like about 80% of them, were Chinese with the full headgear, you know, for the
Was it the monk,
you know,
or the...
no, not the monk, but the PPE, right?
Oh,
You
yes,
know,
yeah,
so
the PPE, yes.
But, you know, my wife says to me, you realize you're different when you don't notice that 80% of the people in the line are Chinese, and you take it, we're going to the US, right? You know, all of us, you don't start asking yourself, why are there so many Chinese on this particular flight? And it's not until that person recognizes that my wife and I are the only black and white people that he says, hey, are you going to China?
So actually, literally, it's you. Wow. So you choose to say it.
Yes. And so you kind of have this, you know, you're so used to differences and, you know, this cosmopolitan way to where you don't notice, you only notice it when it is removed, when you're like, oh, you know.
So
like,
that,
wow,
that was a whole group.
It's like, you know, I would have ended up in China.
I like that.
So for my family, it was, you know, for my mom, it's like, is she a Christian? Yes. Perfect.
Well and good. Please bring her home.
She can always learn to cook mokimo and githeri.
Has she learned?
Oh yeah, she's an amazing cook. Yeah.
Ah,
yeah.
She cooks githeri?
She cooks githeri. She
Mokimo?
cooks mokimo. And in fact, the other
Does she put too much water?
No. She does things that, you know, we hadn't, you know, because, you know, when we're used to cooking mokimo the same way, and I never thought to innovate the aspect of cooking mokimo. And then, you know, my wife is cooking mokimo. She goes, you know, this is very tiring, kusonga. And she goes, you think the KitchenAid will work on this? So I was like, I never thought of it. So she cooks it, she puts it on a KitchenAid, and in like 2-3 minutes,
it's all done.
In a songa, you are.
You like any mokimo moka?
Yeah.
These are
like,
mokimo Pro Max.
Completely, all the beans are beaten, you know, it's like, yeah. So it's like, wow.
Beautiful,
you know,
beautiful.
Yeah.
Let's now fast forward. Now you have gone to the US, you've adapted to the culture and everything. You've gone through university, and you've done all these degrees, and even your PhD.
Yeah.
Your PhD it's in
public finance.
Public finance.
Yeah.
Then you have a degree in history as well.
Yeah. So
Beautiful. Then I think I would have done that as well, because I'm a love of history. I think back in high school,
Yeah.
if there's one lesson I never had to revise for,
was history.
I
Yeah.
love history for all
Yeah.
the weird reasons. And then after that, you end up at the World Bank.
Yes.
Tell us about this. How do you get there? How do you get here? This is a wild dream for any student probably in Kenya, probably who is studying governance and probably finance as well.
Yeah.
How do you get here?
So I'd say it's, you know, determination, grit, and perseverance, and then a profound sense of luck as well. And I tell people, do not beat yourself down because you know, let me backtrack. There are goals in life that we earn for and we choose for. And you don't want this cognitive dissonance, right? You can't reach the fruit, and so you're like, you know, I never wanted it anyway.
No, you just
right?
push it away, like, maybe it wasn't mine.
Yeah, it wasn't yours, right? So being able to understand the things you control and the things you can't control. On the things you control, you put your full effort to, right? You've done your best.
So the rest to achieve God has
the rest to achieve God, or however, if you believe in the divine, if it's just
superior being, whichever.
Being, So for me, I wanted to work in development. That much I knew. I wanted to work in development, economic development. I did not know where. World Bank was just, you know, a vision. I wanted to work for the big three. I used to say to myself, this would be the United Nations Development Fund, the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, and the World Bank. I had a passion and a zeal for development. But even though I knew I was going to go in that direction, those are not the only three organizations that work on development. So I knew the likelihood of getting into them was slim to none. So in my application aspect, even while applying to the World Bank, I cast a wide net and applied to places that were more likely. But I will pause here to say, a lot of times we are our own inhibitors to our success, largely because of the barriers that we put for ourselves. Mimi siwezi, there's no even reason to apply. You start talking yourself down. And since the application would cast itself, you end up missing out on an opportunity that you were qualified for simply because you didn't
believe in yourself.
You didn't cast your lot in. You didn't cast your lot in. So for me, I said, I want to work at the World Bank. I understand there's a high chance I may not get it, but there is no way I would get it if I didn't apply.
Exactly.
So the only way to figure out worst case scenario is a no.
I mean, what do I stand to lose?
What do I stand to lose?
I tried.
And so I cast a net, and I started off at the very bottom. I applied for the World Bank internship in 2012, and I didn't get it. It's the easiest way to get in to a position. I didn't get the internship. For most people, it'd be like, you know.
Did it break your heart? You're like, yeah, even internship.
Even internship, right? So this was December 2011. Didn't get the internship. In March 2012, I applied for the Young Professionals program, which is like, you know, an elevated way of getting into the bank. It's 3 months time difference. Not much has changed in, you know, I'm not like
you see the
won
same
a Nobel
person.
Prize in between this particular 3 months.
I like
Still
that.
the same.
You see the same person.
Yeah.
You're just trying a higher, and I like that actually.
Yes, yeah.
You actually tried a higher, a higher level.
Yeah. So, you know, Machiavelli in The Prince, chapter 6, he says, you know, be like an archer who, looking at the shot that they wish to cast, they realize just how difficult and far off it is. And recognizing that difficulty, they decide to even aim for an even loftier goal, in the chance that they're pretty sure they will miss that mark. And
But I'm gonna get here. more like aim at the moon you land at the sun.
Yes, yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so, you know, I did that. I applied. So, you know, I said I had met all the requirements. So I wasn't lying. I was true to myself. I met the requirements. I knew there would be I was one of 8,300 applicants that applied.
Oh.
But, you know, I applied. And, you know, once we were shortlisted from 8,300 to 1,200, I said, wow, you know, probabilities are working in my favor. Then we went from 1,200 to 192 that were invited for face-to-face interviews.
And you're like,
you know, even if I don't get it in Mefika,
at least lift up and thank God.
what I told myself is that now I can cast my net for probabilities that are much in my favor. So if jobs that I wouldn't have applied for before, so I
Now I'm gonna use this.
Precisely, I applied Princeton, Harvard, Columbia, because I knew this one was 1 in 8,300, this one's a 1 in 100, right? Probability is
And now
in
my
favor.
chances are now coming closer.
Yes. So, you know, December 2012, January 2013 was a very busy time for me. I spent a lot of time on flights because I was going for interviews. Water Alianza, you know, and then you're like, wow, kumbe, I was been selling myself short, right? You know, I have something that people want, but I'd been selling myself short because I wasn't applying. So, you know, long story short, March of 2013, I have 3 job offers.
Dude.
You know, and all of a sudden, I have this very interesting problem. So I go to my college professor. You know, this was in the height of the financial crisis. We're just coming out of it.
Yeah, by that time.
Look, I have this problem. I was like, what's your problem? I have 3 job offers and I don't know which one to choose. And then he goes, that's not a problem. That's a very good position to be in.
That means you're the hot cake, man. You are the hot cake.
And then I said, you know, that's actually true. That's wengine wanaombea kazi. My
Wewe
problem is
unasumbuka juu ya choices.
which one?
Eh.
Which one to take? And at the same time, this is before the bank has come in. And, you know, I get the job offer at the bank and, you know, and I take it. This is, you know, after, you know, a 12-month selection process, you go through, you know, 5 phases of selection. So I get the job and, you know, for me, that, you know, categorically puts it, you know, in this belief aspect that for me, we are oftentimes our biggest inhibitors. We sell ourselves short. Of course, there are people who overinflate their worthiness and yada, yada, yada. But thankfully, most people are not like that. Most people are on this end where we deflate our sense of worth. And so to a lot of young people, I tell them, look, be realistic in the goals that you set. You know, I can say to myself, I want to be the fastest man in the world. I want to be the next Usain Bolt. And I can go and, how many hours does Usain Bolt train? 40. Then I'll do 80. And I can do it until the roosters come home. Chances are I will not be Usain Bolt. Why? Because he had a natural God-given talent. So that would be an unrealistic goal to set.
Goal to set up for yourself.
The differentiation between what is realistic and within your capabilities. So first you have to understand your capabilities and then set realistic timeframes and goals. And you're able to do this because they're in your sense of being. Wachana hizi zingine things.
Pull the doubts and fears aside. Deep
Yes.
down, you know what you can achieve and what you're capable of.
You know, the Bible says the rain falls on the just and the unjust.
True.
So, right, mvua itakunyeshea, or you'll get in an accident, people get hit by a bus, that will happen. But what you can control within that sphere of element, be very, you know, purposeful, driven about it.
Deliberate about it.
Deliberate, yeah.
Nice one.
Yeah.
As we almost finish up, so now you've been able to achieve, and I would think, because for me, my biggest dream is, as I'm hosting here, my dream is one day, Steve Harvey or Tyler Perry are going to be sitting on the same chair that you're sitting, and I'm going to be sitting opposite them and actually hosting them on my show. Yeah. That is my goal. My goal is actually become the first ever stand-up comedian in Africa to host the BET Awards. Whether it's realistic or realistic, I believe it's something that can happen.
It can happen.
In my lifetime.
The Bible says you have not because you ask not.
Exactly. Thank you very much. The door has already been opened. It's you just walking right into it.
Yeah.
So you have achieved this World Bank dream. Then I love the fact that you've been very keen on coming back home and investing not only into your own interest, but also investing into the youth and the future generation. And if I'm not wrong, you've been very keen on taking up on what Tom Boyer actually was doing, getting our children here and giving them better education and better exposure in life, so that if anything comes back and benefits us. So let's talk about the projects that you have been undertaking. Yeah. Right, the ones you've done direct investment as your own, and the ones which are community based. Yeah. Let's talk about them.
Yeah. So for me, you know, realize my vision and realize my sense of purpose to society. We each have to have our own sense of identification as to why did God, or why did the divine being, or why am I on this particular planet? What's our purpose? And for me, I asked myself, why was I given all these opportunities? It's not because I was the smartest or was the brightest. You know, my dad said, look, if you go and get all these PhD degrees and then, you know, you take a job randomly somewhere in Ohio and it's just you and your family, you've missed the whole entire purpose of life. The dreams and the visions and the opportunities that you've been given are to be shared by society. And, you know, scripture says to whom much is given,
much expected.
Much more is expected. And to whom much has been entrusted, of him or her shall they require or ask even more. And I have come to hold that sense of belief. And for me, you know, we think of Mother Teresa's and Nelson Mandela, and they're great people. I do not want to, you know, diminish any of the work that they have. But we say, I'm not going to commit to this purpose, or I'm not going to help, because this just takes too much effort. You need to be a Mother Teresa, and you need to be a Nelson Mandela to do this. And I say no. I say, in fact, the reason we have a lot of these problems in the world is because good people like you and I actually sit on our talents and do nothing. We may not be able to help a whole entire village, but we can change one life.
At least we change one life, we change even much more.
Yeah, there's a ripple effect that pours out to the rest of the community. And so that's what I believed in, a sense of purpose. And you know, we started off with a friend of mine called Friend Davi, and he started an organization called Inspire Spaces. And when we started in 2013, we were providing scholarships to 10 students who were painting classrooms. Now we have grown to around 233 students. We have graduated our first class in 2018, and that class is now about to graduate college.
Beautiful.
The number of SMEs and young people we have incubated and helped, because I personally believe that knowledge should be given freely. If you have something, why do you just hoard it for yourself?
It's going to bust you out.
Yes.
So better release it out.
And it costs me nothing to turn around and tell, you know, Dr.Ofweneke, hapa nipo maji, iko shallow, vukia hapa, right? The current is weaker here. And we carry each other forward that way. And so that's the underlying factor in all the work that I do, whether it's in business or whether it's in pure NGO world, is that aspect of social impact. How can I, you know, create a ripple effect that impacts multiple different people? And so whether it's WACHIRAI, which we addressed this particular issue on financial inclusion, and we asked ourselves, you know, we have this remittances of the largest foreign direct investment coming in, but yet it is so costly for diasporans to send money back home. Let's do something about it, because we know what that money is going to
do back at home.
So let's reduce the transaction cost and allow even more funds to reach home. And so that's how WACHIRAI was born. or whether it's Janta, which is focused really on social impact and incubating
fashion and
SMEs. So whether you have fashion, whether you have coffee. So, went in and, we were looking at the leather industry, for example, and I said, we have great artisans, within the country. And I said, why should we making all this stuff and just selling them on Masai Market? There's nothing wrong with having a curio shop on Masai Market. Yes. But we live in a world with Amazons and Shopify. Why can't I open that particular market? And because that particular person, may not have the knowledge or the wherewith to do so, we come in and we say, look, you're really great, you're really skilled. There is this whole entire market that is ripe for the picking, and show them how to do so. And tell them the only thing we require for you is for you to do this to another person. And so, you handhold, unafikisha, umevuka barabara, sawa. Vukisha mwingine.
Ngoja mwingine akuje kumvukisha.
And you do that, and you change, so you don't need to be Gates. You don't need millions of dollars to do it. You just need
a willing heart.
Act of kindness, and it, creates a ripple effect.
Ladies and gentlemen, big host, big conversation, big guest on Dr.Ofweneke Live. I'm having the pleasure and the honor, of course, of hosting the one and only Dr. David WACHIRAI, of course, an expert, of course, in governance, and of course, a historian as well, and of course, with a passion in changing the story of the future generation. Of course, with the pleasure, of course, you coming back home and reinvesting back, and make sure that even some of these children actually have an equal exposure, or even better, as you did, or God provided for you back in 1997. So I think that's a beautiful thing. So, ladies and gentlemen, as we close up, I like the fact that you actually spoke Kikuyu. I found it very interesting. I don't know. Are you able just to give us a short prayer? A short prayer in Akorino. I'm really interested in knowing that. I know many of my Akorino fans will be very much interested to just hear. Are you able to do a prayer for us? No, I'm a very spiritual person. Yeah. So, but I'm also open-minded enough to just enjoy and embrace other denominations as well. So I keep on I actually put Akorino on my bucket list. Yeah. I have to visit and just get to enjoy and embrace your type of spirituality. So are you able to do that for us?
I can. What do you want me to say?
Please, just pray for me, the show, and pray for the future generation.
Sure.
Yes,
sure.
yes.
I know.
Put you on the spot.
Put me on the spot.
Remember, Dad will be proud of you.
Yeah.
Dad will be proud of you.
Yeah.
So do we close our eyes?
Wait, we can see. Unless you're driving, yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Let's do this.
Sure. So let's just do a quick prayer.
Yes, just a quick one.
As we make a couple of actions.
Yes.
Modani gai twa gucokia ngatho rucini acini hwaini omuthe ni tondu wa wega na utugi waku twakura ni thengio ni tondu wa uria tumenyereire twahoera bururi uyu twakuhoya ati no guthi na mbere ugitwambararia na ona tugikuhiriria maundu ma election ni ukutuhe witikio na ni ukutuhe thirikari njega itagutwanagia rĩtwa-inĩ rĩa Jesu Kristo na Roho Mũtheru.
Amen. Yeah. I like that. At least I could get a few words here and there. Ladies and gentlemen, you cannot get this on any other show apart from Dr.Ofweneke Live. Asanteni sana for watching the show. Remember, of course, to subscribe to Dr.Ofweneke TV. Those also watching, of course, from diaspora, different parts of the world. Much appreciated to you. Those also watching from Kenya. Asanteni sana as well. We love and celebrate you. A big shout, of course, to Pete's Cafe, Nyangumi Road, of course, on Arc Place, where that's where we normally shoot. For the best of meeting places, and of course, if you want to have tea, have a meeting, have a date, you want to enjoy a ladies' night, a Friday time, this is the place to come and just have a good time. And of course, to our marketing and our PR and communication done by Yolo Creative Agency. Santeni sana, ladies and gentlemen. And of course, thank you so much. See you again next time, of course, as I host the next guest. And thank you so much for the suggestions of who you want to see on the show. So those who wanted Dr. David WACHIRAI, I have fulfilled your dream. At least I'm not like a politician. I fulfill where I have promised. Ladies and gentlemen, to all the ladies and to all the men, you can sort yourselves out. Have a good night and bye-bye.